All right, so I'll try my best to cover most of the stuff in this session, and at the end I'll show you the curriculum I've designed and how you're going to go for the next sessions and what will be covered then. But for now, I would recommend all of you to be on the laptop and come along with me so that you will know each and every step and how you can get started. And probably this is going to be the best weekend for you guys because once you're getting started with Latin Web Conference, you will have plenty time to play play around with Latin Web Conference and see how you can go through that. And so let's get started. You all know me. My name is Hamza, and I am TAM Salesforce certified, working as a director of product development at Cloud Junctions Advisors, and all the stuff about me. So I'm gonna skip the boring part and let's dive into selecting.com. One more thing before we get started, if you have any questions, you can post it on the Q&A tab. I've enabled the Q&A tab, and after this Q&A, we're gonna do. Thank you, Rizwan, for letting me know. Let me quickly change my headset so that you have a practice. Thank you. Or I assume it's better. Please let me know if you can hear me okay. All right, great. Thanks for the feedback, guys. All right, so we're gonna get started, and you can post your question on Q&A after the session. We're gonna go with the curriculum. I'm gonna cover most of the topics and of LWC in this series, and we're gonna do the raffle for the two hoodies. So what is Lightning Web Components? Lightning Web Components are a collection of standards which are working their way through the W3C and landing in browsers as we speak. I'll come up with the W3C. What's W3C? So basically, a Lightning Web Component allows you to bundle markup and styles into custom HTML elements. What's truly amazing about these new elements is that they fully encapsulates all of their HTML and CSS. That means that the styles that you write always render as intended, and your HTML is safe from prying eyes of external JavaScript. I'll also cover the I'll also cover these document components topics so that a layman can also understand. The idea behind database component is to create dynamic interface elements without writing custom JavaScript code or building your own libraries. Modern web frameworks such as React, Angular, and Vue already using this concept. The concept is called web components. So if any of you is coming from different development technology like React or Angular, you might already know about it, and that's why I really praise Latin Web Components because it came into this web is industry standards. So all the developers know how it is, and it will not be any more difficulty for any other developer to come and work for Salesforce. This Latin Web component was launched in around 2018, and people are getting, created multiple, and with this whole Salesforce Ohana community is amazing that they have come up with very great blogs, YouTube videos, and everything about Latin Web components. It was a new model, programming model based on modern web standards, and now we can build Lightning components using two programming models: Lightning Web components and the original that was Aura components. Salesforce is allowing both of them, and we'll also cover that how Aura and Lightning Web components are different. Lightning Web component uses core web component standard and provides only what's necessary to perform well in browsers supported by Salesforce. As I can see, many of us are from South Asia. Do you mind me changing the language to Urdu or Hindi? Please post it on the comments so I know. I know I can, but I want to know, okay, how many of you are interested? Urdu is similar to Hindi, Subjit. All right, great. I can see that many of you are saying that. Okay, perfect. What I will do, I will keep switching these languages. So if anyone is coming up with another different language, can also understand that. So I'm going to quickly repeat this what I have said already in this in the Urdu language or Hindi language. तो इस तरह है कि लैटिन वेब कॉम्पोनेंट 2017 के पहले या 2017 के बाद या 18 के अराउंड आया था और उस टाइम से लैटिन वेब कॉम्पोनेंट्स का कोई पहले कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं था। लैटिन वेब कॉम्पोनेंट का कॉन्सेप्ट डिफरेंट प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेजेस से आया है जो कि रिएक्ट एंगुलर जो कि नोड जेएस की बेसिकली एप्लीकेशन है वहाँ से कॉन्सेप्ट आया और लैटिन वेब कॉम्पोनेंट्स का सिंपल तरीका सिंपल सा ये है कि ऑरा के अंदर हम देखते थे कि हमारे पास कंपोनेंट्स डिजाइन कंट्रोलर्स हैंडलर्स तरह की मल्टीपल चीजें होती थी लेकिन लैटिन वेब कॉम्पोनेंट के अंदर हमारे पास सिर्फ मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम दो चीजें होती हैं एक एचटीएमएल और एक जावास्क्रिप्ट उसको हम बाइंडिंग उसके अंदर हम बाइंडिंग करते हैं एचटीएमएल के अंदर हम एचटीएमएल कोड लिखेंगे जो कि रिप्रेजेंट करेगा सामने एक लैटिन कंपोनेंट के अंदर और जावास्क्रिप्ट के अंदर हमारी सारी कोडिंग होगी जो कि हम यूटिलाइज करना चाहेंगे एज अ कंट्रोलर तो ये दो चीजें हैं लैटिन वेब कंपोनेंट्स के अंदर लैटिन वेब कंपोनेंट का फायदा क्या है फायदा ये कि एक मॉडर्न लैटिन फ्रेमवर्क है अगर आपने लैटिन वेब कंपोनेंट सीख लिया तो इसका मतलब ये है कि आप रिएक्ट पे भी काम कर सकते हैं नोड जेएस पे भी काम कर सकते हैं बिकॉज क्योंकि उनके जो कंपोनेंट्स का जो आइडिया है वो सेम है इनकी परफॉर्मेंस बहुत बेटर होती है क्योंकि ये इंडस्ट्री स्टैंडर्ड्स बन चुका है आजकल जितनी भी नई लैंग्वेजेस हैं जितने भी नए वर्जन हैं अगर एंगुलर की बात करें तो एंगुलर के अंदर जो लेटेस्ट वर्जन है वो भी वेब कंपोनेंट यूज़ कर रहा है तो इनकी परफॉर्मेंस बहुत बेहतर होती है और ये और से भी कंपेटेबल है अगर एलडब्ल्यूसी की बात की जाए All right, now I'm going to convert back to English so everyone can understand. So I just summarized whatever I was saying about the Latin American components earlier in Urdu, and quickly go to the next slide. If you guys have any questions, because I know this is a start for you guys, so you can also feel free to ask me anything about it. I'll try my best to answer all of them. The main the main goal for me is to help you getting started with Latin Web components. So every concept, every confusion, if you have regarding Latin Web components, you should be get cleared after this session. All right. So why Latin Web components? When we already have the visual force, when we already have the aura, why there is a need of Latin Web components? I've already covered this part in the introduction that what is Latin Web component because it's an industry standard now. Everyone is using all the new technologies are using web components, and Salesforce had to come up with a plan to bring the web components concept in Salesforce. That's why they come up with the Latin web components. Latin, is a Salesforce Latin, and and yeah, that's why because it's a smarter way, it's an easier way, it's a modern and very efficient in terms of performance. I know this is a very boring part, but I would like to cover this as well. In 2014 is a web stack. What was that? So in 2014, web was not innovating at rapid speed. All features which framework required from the platform were not provided. Latin components had extremely limited web standard functionalities. Uh, which I'm talking about the Aura components, like component model, templatizing, views, writing languages with extensions. Everything was done by the framework. That was Aura framework. Multiple framework came up to fill the gap, like Aura framework, Angular, React was a part of that initiative. where they push web standards to build enterprise applications, and these all frameworks became languages. In 2019, Google began to look into new concepts known as web components in this internet community. The idea was to bring new set of standards that are more flexible and powerful to the web developers. And Salesforce came up with the Angular. A lot of functionality Salesforce had built into the Aura framework could now be taken out to their processes and offloaded into the browser itself using web components. Web Standards has now a rich set of functionalities supported by native browsers such as templating, shadow DOM, custom element, etc. I'll cover the shadow DOM and etc. things as well. And and that Salesforce created this Latin Web Component framework to do so in Salesforce. So it's a less framework and more web standard components. This is in this minute I'll explain that what is Latin Web, how Latin Web framework works. Let me know any of the part you want me to cover in Urdu or Hindi. Uh, Latin Web components are able to utilize the web browser standards while still have the ability to access Salesforce data and work within the existing Latin Experience UI. This results in faster speed and processing of Salesforce applications because the web browsers has direct access to the processing capability of your computer. Latin Web components can now expand its reach to new demography demographic of developers who have never experienced Salesforce before. So if you look at this image, I know it's a little blurry, I'm sorry for that, but on the left-hand side, we have Latin Web components, which are on top of the web standards. And earlier, we had the web standards, and there was a frameworks over there. This contains specialization services, data services, and UI components. But if you look at Latin Web component, it's also Salesforce binding and other stuff like that. The core stack got updated. Many features that required frameworks now come standard. We no longer need a proprietary component model, proprietary language extensions, proprietary modules, and etc. Because that's now are coming as a web standards. All the modern browsers are now supporting it. Lightning Web Component provides Salesforce services on top of core stack, including base Lightning components, Lightning data services, a user interface API, and there are a lot of benefits if talk about Lightning Web components. That it's a more standard, less proprietary, common component model, transferable skills, easier ramp up for developers, and it has better performance. Using Latin Web component, you can enhance your productivity, use modern language of web. It uses HTML5, JavaScript ES6. ES6 is what came up after 2019. CSS3, which utilizes browser APIs for rendering the UI, and it gives users a seamless experience. Many of you may already know about jQuery. People, or the developers will be using, were using jQuery to the framework to enhance their UI experience. But now most of the stuff are under ES6 are coming as a built-in functionality in the modern browsers. Let me know if that hit ring the bell. Web components use browsers in native API support to render UI, which reduces the overheads of using other JavaScript libraries and CSS. Latin Web component is built for performance, so more code executed by the browser instead of JavaScript abstractions for blazing fast experience. And it's compatible and easy to use. You can run side by side with existing components, Aura components or Latin Web components. It is also perfect marriage between Aura and WC because you can have interpolation between Aura and WC. You can call the Aura components um, uh, and in the LWC, I mean the events. I'll talk about it in the next couple of sessions. There you go. So Aura to LWC is not migration because evolution. Aura and LWC can coexist. When Aura is sending event to LWC, then we are converting that Aura event to standard modern JavaScript events so that Latin Web Component starts understanding that. They share the same high-level services, and you can still create Aura components if you love about it. If you look at this image shows you the interoperability between this Aura and Latin Web components. So look at the base level. One was the script 5 and the other one is script 7, having the events, extended elements, and rendering that you can also do in both of the languages, either in Aura or LWC. But you look on the left hand side, it's a web components template, custom elements, shadow DOM, modules, and standard events that you can call in Latin Web components, where we used to do custom components model, the templating, and the custom events in Aura. That was also doable. So what's the difference? The difference is that the stuff that we are doing in Latin Web components are now the modern, and this is also built in by the browser functionality. So you don't have to have a library or framework on the backend like Aura. And this image shows you how they are um, collaborative, that you can call the Aura methods and the LWC all together between them. So let's just say if there's a new functionality that you want to implement and that's not supported by the Latin Web components, you can create an Aura component with that functionality and can bring that to Latin Web components. And same as Aura. So let's just say there's a very good functionality that Latin Web component brings and Aura does not. You can create an Aura component and bring the Latin Web component together and bring that functionality to your Aura component. That's how wonderful it is. So far we have covered the basic introduction of Latin Web Components, why we are going to use Latin Web Components, the 2014-19 Web Stack, Latin frameworks, benefits of LWC, and interoperability of Aura and LWC. So if I'd love to give you the opportunity, if you have any questions, please post it now because next I'm going to go ahead and show you some beautiful stuff. So let me know if you have any questions. If not, and I'll suggest you to keep your laptop open because I'm going to go ahead with a couple of prerequisites of Latin Web components, and I would love to hear from you guys if you are able to reproduce that on your laptop. I know it was all the boring part that I discussed now, but now it's a fun part now. So please keep an eye on it. I'll see myself if you guys posting any questions. All right, let's go to the next slide, which is the environmental setup. So how you can create Latin Web components. Earlier, we were able to create the R components using the developer console in Salesforce, right? But now it's not like that. We cannot create in developer console, but now we have to use the VS Code. VS Code is Salesforce, is Microsoft's tool that is open source, it's free, you can download it. I've also provided these URLs on your website. So first thing what you need to do is to make sure that you have developer org. You can also create this scratch org if you already have. Um, enable the domain. I know that it's also pre-enabled, so you don't have to worry about this. The two things that's very important. The one is that download the VS Code. Once you download the VS Code, install it on your PC. Either it's Windows, it's all available for Windows, Linux, Mac, whatever, and connect your Salesforce org with the VS Code. I'll show you how you can do that. The first thing is make sure you already have the VS Code downloaded on your system. Gaurav is asking, an Aura component can only be the parent or LWC, so can LWC can call Aura components? Actually, yes. Basically, the interoperability between these two components works in the events. You create an event in Aura component, and you can call the LWC event. So that will call the Aura components. You can work both ways in Aura and LWC. I hope that answers your question. All right, I'm gonna go quickly and let's create the Latin web components. I'm gonna come up this slide afterwards because I want to show you something. So I already have this Visual Studio or VS Code. Actually, I wanted to say about this that there are two things. So Visual Studio and VS Code. That's Visual Studio Code. Both are different. Please don't end up downloading and installing Visual Studio. Visual Studio is a separate tool. Please make sure you are downloading VS Code. You can simply just write VS Code on Google and it will take you there. And this is how VS Code is looks like. I hope you can guys see my screen. Uh, Asim is saying, can you use codeanywhere.com? As far as I know, codeanywhere.com has been changed to GitHub Copilot. Um, Actually, that was the cloud. Sorry, I'm sorry. The Code Anywhere. I'm not sure that we can use Cloud Anywhere, but GitHub Copilot is the next tool that Salesforce is coming up, probably in the next year, probably. And you don't have to use the VS Code anymore because you will be able to use the Latin web components VS Code on the browser. I know it's very exciting, and yeah. While LWC presence, what is the future? So Sarvji is saying that no, we cannot call Aura in LWC. Um, yeah, that's I have already answered that you can do using the events. It's not actually you can call, but you can pass the information. You can pass the um, matters to Aura. You can call that in that way. So while LWC presence, what is the future of other components? Will they obsolete your thoughts? I don't think that is going to obsolete. Probably at someday, yes, but at this stage, I don't think that Salesforce is gonna obsolete any of this stuff because many of the Aura was there for around 2 to 3 years, and people have built an amazing of their components in Aura, and using that you can. I mean, many people it's very hard for people to migrate from Aura to LWC, although Salesforce suggests that, but it's hard for all the people who wants to migrate from Aura. Even though I still know that many people are still using Salesforce Classic, so it will take a while. But yes, there are chances that it's gonna obsolete. So it's better to cope up with the latest technology that Salesforce is providing. All right. So now when you are in the Visual Studio Code, um, the first thing you need to do is to make sure that you already have the extension of Salesforce installed. So first you need to do is install the Salesforce CLI. And once Salesforce CLI is kind of software that you need to install, within the Node.js. And what you need to do is go to the VS Code extensions. It's similar to what browser extensions, and make sure that you have Salesforce Essentials um, extension pack installed. This is the extension that you have to install in the VS Code. So basically, VS Code is an IDE that is um, very compatible with most of the languages. You can code basic JavaScript, your Node.js, whatever. And to link your Salesforce, you have to install this plugin. Please do not install the rest of the Salesforce extension pack that you can see, because these are also a part of this extension pack that you can see on here. These are also already a part of this. So make sure you use this. Simply install this Salesforce extension pack. Once you've done that, go back to the main screen, and there you can run the command. I mean, it's like a tab, so you can close the tab, Click Control, or if you're on a Mac, use Command Shift P. You'll have a window like this that will come up with the commands. And as you can see, the first one that I've recently used, it starts with SFDX. SFDX is a development Salesforce development framework X, and it is to create all the commands starts with SFDX, means that this is going to work with the Salesforce CLI. So what I'm going to do is create a new project with manifest. You can also create simple without manifest as well. When you do that, it will ask you what template you want to use, because this is Salesforce. This is a VS Code standard functionality. So right now, as we are getting started, let's give it the standard one. Enter the name of the project that you want to do. I'm going to say it's KHI admin test, because this is not the just test admin group. And I'm going to continue working on this for the next following sessions as well. Once you press enter, it's going to do its magic, and it will ask you the folder that you want to use for this. I'm going to go select and my favorite folder there, create a project there. And now you can see that the screen has turned blue, which means now I'm in the project. And on the left hand side, you can see I now have a couple of standard components under this Force app. Force app is our um, main folder where we will see all of our stuff. I also want to cover a couple of topics, other things here as well. If you see that there's another folder called config. This is a configuration file for the Scratch orgs, and you probably know about the Scratch org. This is how you will. This is where you define your JSON formats of the definition for your Scratch org. The other thing I want to talk to you about is SFDX project.json. This is the project file that that identifies everything for this project that you're working on. So coming back to our Force app folder, this Force app folder has applications or component classes. If any, I can expand that. I can make that. At this stage, this is a simple project that I created is on my system only. It's not linked to Salesforce anyway. And you also can see that there are other extensions are getting preloaded on the bottom of it. Now to connect this project with the Salesforce dev org, I'm gonna go and run the same command, command shift P, and now you can see. I'm sorry. Now you can see that now I have more commands here, like run apex test suite, create apex test suite, create default scratch org, create aura component, create apex component. Here, I also have other as well. We're going to authorize. You can see that authorize an org. When I click on it, it will ask me which org you want to authorize, and it will open up the browser, and there I can connect my dev or production or sandbox to this project. This also, what you can see is that create Lightning Web components. Here you can see the second one, create Lightning Web component. When you click on it, it asks you the name of the component you want to do, create. Let's just say hello world. It's asking me that the folder where I put that is a default folder. This is the output on the back and on the bottom. You can see that it's saying that it will prompt you the output of all the commands that you are running, and it will give you the output here. Now you can see that hello world is created. There's folder and a couple of files under the Lightning Web components folder. And it does also open the JavaScript file. Let's keep it open. So you can see that Lightning Web, this hello world components is under the folder which has 3 files. One is HTML, Other one is JavaScript, and third one is the metadata. This meta actually describes the basic properties of this Laravel components. Let's visit the HTML first. So HTML starts with template. This this is the basic HTML5 um, HTML file, which has the Laravel component bindings that we're going to do with JavaScript through here. The first line is importing the Lightning elements from LWC. We'll be working. We will cover this import part in our next couple of sessions. At how you can import the other rest of the stuff in this component. Your This is like your Apex class. So it's export default class hello world, extending the Lightning elements functionality. And here you can write your own methods and functionality that you want to do. So let's just say I'm just gonna use the variable test variable to answer. Okay, so now already have this value here, and I'm saving it, going to the HTML, and if I want to print anything, I'm just gonna do test that's it. That's how I'm gonna print whatever variable value I do have in JavaScript in HTML. Coming back to our presentation. Okay, I can see there are a couple of questions. Let me share the screen first and then I'll come up there. Okay, yes, we can make communication between Aura and LWC using message channel. That's right, Sujit. Thank you for answering that. I got disconnected. Please let us also the difference between Dev Hub org and Scratch orgs. Um, Dev Hub orgs, they're two totally different stuff. So Dev Hub orgs allows you to create these Scratch orgs. So let's just say your Dev Hub orgs can only be like developer orgs or production. Like you have to enable the Dev Hub from there. Once you enable that, you need to connect that on your VS Code, or it's actually Salesforce CLI, and then you will be able to create these Scratch orgs based on DevOps. DevOps, DevHub orgs actually has a limit on creation of Scratch orgs and all stuff. I'll sure come up with the next probably the next session on Scratch orgs, how you can do that and more about it. But those are two separate things. DevHub orgs allows you to create Scratch orgs in simple words. Can we authorize an org without password? No, actually, Salesforce uses OAuth, so it opens the browser, and and there's another way to remember is with the password and token security token concatenated, which means still you need the password. You cannot connect any org without password. Okay, so thank you, Sarvajit, for answering most of the questions. Thank you so much for that. Search only SFDX after then, and all the script will show up. That's right. Means authorization with LIS, client ID, developer ID, or name. What about the user session ID? I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Did you please elaborate this question? Meanwhile, let's talk about a couple of stuff. So this Laravel component I've shown you has the basic components was HTML and JavaScript, but you can also create a CSS file and you can write your own CSS components through that, which means that you can also you're not dependent on Salesforce Lightning design. You can also create you can also do your CSS, your stuff, but that will be only restricted to your component. SVG file and XML file. We already seen the XML file. If you look at this screenshot in the PPT, you will find there's a this demo component has all of these files. So .css file, you don't have to do anything. You simply have to create your CSS file in there and do your CSS through that. You can use that classes in the HTML. I'm gonna go show you over after you. the, the naming rules are simple. So always begin with the lowercase, whatever variable or fx class or any method that you are naming. Make sure that you are um, starting with lowercase. Before continuing with Latin Web Components, I recommend you guys to have a little knowledge of JavaScript. You can go to W3 schools or any other, or maybe there are actually Trailhead modules available for the JavaScript. So you go ahead and learn the basic JavaScript. That's because that's going to be very useful in the future journey of Latin Web Components. In naming rules, the second one is contain only alphanumeric or underscore. Do not use any other for the variables or the method names. Do not include white spaces. That's, I mean, would be pretty obvious. Okay, I'm going ahead with the chat book again. So what's SVG file? SVG file is basically a file which will help you bring the images. Um, uh, SVG is actually a format which brings the images. This is the image format, but this SVG file actually is a component which helps you bring the SVG images into the Latin components. This can be, yeah. Thanks, Navi, for answering that. What is the authorized with session ID in VS Code for or authorization? If you already have the session ID, that you can use that for authorization. I believe I haven't tried that myself, but yeah, I think it looks like that you can do that. Is learning ES6 will be enough to start LWC? Yes, initially. The knowledge of JavaScript will help you getting started. Hamza, are you referring to the current PPT or you have already provided any link for the PPT? Um, I'm actually referring to this PPT that I'm showing the screen, Latin Web Component Bundle. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna go try after the cover this session. Thank you. Okay. And you should not also contain any hyphens and do not contain two consecutive underscores, because two consecutive underscores are for custom components, either custom field or custom object. And I'm also going to cover a very important stuff that you can do. Probably I'll share a couple of resources. All right, the next slide. So this is the hello world component. We already have created this hello world component, but the next thing I'm gonna do is applying the CSS component into that. And how you can do that? Coming back to the VS Code. Coming back to this VS Code, and now as you can see that we do not have any CSS component here. So how are you going to do that? What you need to do is simply click on the hello world component and click on right click over there and click new file, and make sure that you are typing the right name that you have named it earlier, and with proceeding.css. Now you can see that its CSS file has been created, and now I can create my CSS file as just say blue color, and make it blue. So this is a CSS file that I created, and I can use a basic div containing div class blue color, and there you go. A simple basic div. That's a simple HTML that I'm using, and that's it. That's how you can create this use this CSS classes within your Latin Web components. You can create multiple classes and you can use them within your HTML. All right, coming back to the our PPT. So now I've seen how we can apply the CSS component. The next thing is data binding that I already have covered. Like if you're creating any JavaScript method or JavaScript class, how you can call that in there. I'm gonna cover this very quickly after this PPT when I will be covering the other topic. That's a very good topic. Um, so you can do the conditional rendering. So in the property that we've been doing, and earlier in Aura or Visualforce, we'll be using CSS to hide and show any of the component. But now in Latin Web Components, we already have the template DOM, which we can use to hide and show any of the component. I'm going to quickly show you how you can do this. Going back to the VS Code, and please let me know if you have any questions till now. So let's just say that I want to show this div only when I have another variable called show div. Initially it's false. I only want to show this when this changes to true. So what I can do is create another template HTML tag with this text of if true. I can do if colon false. I can also do if colon true. If true, and name the show div. If it's true, then only show this section. So show this component only when show div variable is true. And this is how, I mean, as you can see that, so Latin component render in this way. So if we'll check if show div value if is true, if it's true, then it will render this section. Otherwise, it will not. Similarly, you can also create a similar section with if false. So let's just say you want to show another template, another section when it's false. You can simply do a if false here, and this will only be visible when it will be false. So if I go ahead in JavaScript and see that right now the value is false, so you can see here and simply observe that this section will be visible when this page will render. And when I change this to true, this variable to true, this section will be rendered. And the good thing about Lightning Web Component is that you don't have to manually set or anything. These variables are re-render dynamically or manually, declaratively yourselves. Lightning Web Components uh, do render itself as soon as the change has been made on your any of the variables. So let's just say if I have any method, let's just say change value. This is how you can create any method in JavaScript or ES6. Let's just say this dot show div is true. What I'm doing is that all the method that you are using on any of the method, you have to use this because this is actually shows you this actually is your components prefix that you need to use for each of the variables. So you're saying that this dot show div set the value to true. And as soon as this method will be called, either by a button or anywhere, this method will change, and in HTML, this section will render automatically. I hope you guys do understand that. Let me quickly see if you have any questions regarding this. Why to choose conditional rendering over JavaScript logic in class like query element and set the different value of the property? Because conditional rendering is a lighter weight of because it works in a shadow DOM as well. Shadow DOM actually is your it's a document which calls in the JavaScript. If you go to the basics of JavaScript, you'll know what is DOM is. And if you go with another logic, it will only hide it. If you, let's just say CSS, if I hide it from CSS, it will only hide from the CSS for the visibility of for the user, but it will not be removed from the DOM. But if you go to dynamic rendering, it removes from the DOM, so it will not be. I mean, your lighting component is lightweight in terms of that. That's why you have. That's why it's recommended to use this conditional rendering. Two-way binding. Actually, no. JavaScript methods will be binded to, will be binded through HTML in HTML, and there's no HTML is not a programming language. It's just for the visibility, right? So you don't have anything, but you can do is that you can call any JavaScript method in HTML. That's, I don't know, those would call binding as well, but no. So you can call any JavaScript method in the JavaScript in the HTML. As parents pass slot to child, is this possible to reverse order? Yes, that's possible. You can use the API tag for that, and I've used that in one of the components that I created earlier, which I needed to pass the values. So the one thing that you should do is to you create the API tag with for the child, and to get the parent, or to get the child actually, you need to go to this query selector. Query selector you use to get the element out from the child. Um, this is used to reference class variables. HTML slot as API. No, not the HTML slot, but the JavaScript variables. I will cover this topic in the probably next chapter, how you can do that. So don't worry about it. Thank you, Ankit, for questioning that. Why we need to use the track if we can declare private variables without this declarator? We don't need to use track anymore because track is coming up default after API 49, as I remember. So Shabazz, all the properties are reactive. We don't have to exactly, but if you want to render when property of objects change, I thank you, Shabazz, for answering that. All right, coming back to our presentation. So we have covered this conditional rendering. Now, this is a very important topic, the loop and the iteration that you can do in Latin Web Component. That has been a very, I know the loops and the ifs are the basics of our languages. And I also want to cover this in any detailed tab. Let me share another tab, the Salesforce documentation tab with you, and just show you how you can do that. Um, Here you go. So Salesforce developer.salesforce.com is a perfect documentation tool that you need to learn anything about Salesforce or any other tool other than Latin Web Components. But this is the essential page that you need. This portal you need to come here as soon as you if you need anything. So in the render list, we already know how order works, but in Latin Web Component, let's just see how it works. We can do rendering in JavaScript, right? We can do if or use. What about the HTML? And here this topic covers that. Skipping this boring part and coming back to this section here. So as you can see that this is our HTML page that starts with template, right? And it has a lightning card component. You can go to the component references here. You will find all the components that are available for Lightning Web Components and Aura. So this Lightning card will represent simple card. Let's ignore that for now. And this UL tag creates a list we all know. And this is li, that's list item, right? So starting this list, and here we are using the for each and for item. So in our basic JavaScript or Apex, already know that we provide the list and provide the variable alias for each item. So this is how you can do in the Java in the LWC HTML file. At for each, let's assume that context we have is an object, is an array in JavaScript, and for each item, I'm getting the contact. So contact.id I can refer in our list item. So you can see the contact.name, contact.title. That is referring to the single item in a loop. And this is how you can call a loop in um, in the Lightning Web components. And here they have already given examples. So let's just assume that you already have this context variable having the array, and it has three elements in here. The first element contains the ID, name, title, and most of the same. So this is how you can create a loop in HTML and bring the data around that. And here they are also giving the example of how this will be visible here. So all the names are coming up in a different order. There are a couple other things that you can do. Is if I scroll up a little bit, that there's a key. The key has to be a unique ID, that because that will help you if in advanced levels. And for index, let's just say you want to know uh, is that number 1 or 2. I mean, in the loop, that's index you want to know. So you can use for index. You can use your index variable, and you can print out the variable if you want to know that how what is the number of this element that is getting printed. This will also this will remind you for the most of developers. This will remind you of the for that we used earlier. So for I is equals to 0, that starts with 0 and increments after it, so you know which value is that. So that means that you can also use that. The other thing I want to show you is that on my blog, if you go, I've also a brilliant blog that I do update it. Let me open it on a new tab. Let me share that screen. So here this is the blog that I do create. I did create it, and I keep updating it. So this is the Lightning Web component best practices and considerations that I do add, like what to use and what not to use, like binding and stuff. That's the advanced level. So you can also refer to this blog if you stuck anywhere. All right, coming back to the question list, is declaring key is compulsory in a list item? I think it's not, but it's a best practice to use key because that differentiates the line items between them. All right, just give me a second. Going back to the presentation. And similar to what I've already identified about index, you can also use the first and last to determine is if this list item that is getting printed is the first or last. You can do your, let's just say you are adding another element after the first or last. You can do that. All right, and I believe that's it. So I'm waiting for your questions, and this is the next coming up sessions. So in the second session, we're gonna cover the decorators, Lightning Web component lifecycle hooks, and the compositions. Then component communication using events that Ankit and the other person was talking about. Then working with Salesforce data, including like LDS, and then navigation services, Aura, and LWC interoperability with some extra stuff. So please don't forget to RSVP. This session will be created today, and don't forget to RSVP because this is not a typical one. The typical uh, sessions that are available online. This is going to be a little detailed. The first session was just intro for everyone. Even if you are not a developer, you should cope up with what are Latin component and create at least a small curiosity that how you can do that. So I hope that helped you guys. And if you have any questions, please post it on the Q&A section. And also you can add me on LinkedIn. I'll share my LinkedIn ID with you, or you can also visit my website mzas.com and send an email through that. And I'll try to answer everything. The one thing that is missing is log in with the session IDs. I'm gonna do that and let you know how you can do that. And let me quickly see any other stuff. Meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, you can please post it on a DM. I'm gonna stop the recording because the next thing we're gonna do